wear it, our spirits lift. It helps us grow strong in body and in mind. As we wear it, we learn patience and respect. The belt system motivates students to strive harder and continue growing. This uniform shapes movement into grace and turns performance into something thrilling. Now, embraced around the world, Taekwondo shares our culture, philosophy, and values with pride and spirit. Though it may seem simple, this uniform holds your passion and your journey. It belongs to Taekwondo. Wear the extraordinary. Be with Taekwondo.
Hello and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. U.S. and Iran exchange fire in the Strait of Hormuz, with the U.S. military saying it intercepted Iranian attacks and responded with self-defense strikes. President Donald Trump claimed great damage was done to the Iranian ships, while Tehran accused Washington of breaching their ceasefire. The damaged South Korean-operated cargo vessel that caught fire near the Strait of Hormuz has arrived at Dubai port. South Korean investigators are now preparing a full-scale probe into the cause of an explosion on the ship. A U.S. trade court has ruled that U.S. President Donald Trump's global 10% tariffs are invalid. It said the cross-the-border duties were not justified under a 1970s trade law. Tensions are escalating in the Middle East after the U.S. has confirmed that its military carried out strikes against Iranian targets in what it described as a response to unprovoked attacks in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran accused the United States of breaching a ceasefire by aggressively targeting an Iranian oil tanker. Our Kim Bo-kyung starts us off.
The U.S. military carried out airstrikes on Iran's Qeshm port and Bandar Abbas on Thursday local time, according to Fox News, citing a senior official. Iran's semi-official Mehr news agency had reported earlier that explosions were heard around Qeshm Island near the Strait of Hormuz and in Bandar Abbas in southern Iran. Iran, meanwhile, accused the U.S. of violating the ceasefire by targeting two ships. According to Iran's IRIB broadcaster, a spokesperson for Iran's Khatam al-Anbiya Central Headquarters said Washington targeted two ships in the Strait of Hormuz and that enemy forces were hit by Iranian missile attacks and retreated.
Following these reports, an informed military official said that after the aggressive U.S. military targeted an Iranian oil tanker, hostile enemy units in the area of the Strait of Hormuz came under Iranian missile fire and, after sustaining damage, were forced to flee.
The fact that the two sides exchanged fire was confirmed, with U.S. Central Command saying that American forces intercepted unprovoked Iranian attacks and responded with self-defense strikes as U.S. Navy-guided missile destroyers transited the Strait of Hormuz toward the Gulf of Oman. In the statement, it said the U.S. eliminated inbound threats and targeted Iranian military facilities responsible for attacking U.S. forces, including missile and drone launch sites. It added that the Central Command does not seek escalation, but remains positioned and ready to protect American forces. U.S. President Donald Trump also confirmed the strikes on social media, saying that American destroyers were not damaged, but great damage was done to Iranian attackers. He told ABC News that the latest strike was just a light warning and that the ceasefire remains in effect. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
A Korean-operated cargo vessel damaged by an onboard explosion and fire near the Strait of Hormuz has arrived in Dubai, where South Korean investigators are preparing to launch a full-scale probe into the cause of the incident. Iranian officials are denying any involvement as authorities work to determine whether the blast was caused by an external attack or an internal defect aboard the ship. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
A cargo vessel operated by South Korean shipping company HMM, damaged by an onboard explosion and fire near the Strait of Hormuz, has arrived in Dubai, where South Korean authorities are preparing to launch a full-scale investigation into the incident. According to HMM and local officials, the HMM Namu was towed from waters near Al Quwain in the United Arab Emirates and reached the Dubai port area shortly after midnight Thursday, about 12 hours after towing operations began. The vessel will now head to Dry Docks World Dubai, the Middle East's largest ship repair facility, where investigators will inspect the ship and begin repair work. A South Korean government team made up of investigators from the Korea Maritime Safety Tribunal and forensic fire experts from the National Fire Agency is expected to intensify its probe. Investigators are focusing on whether the explosion and fire were caused by an outside attack, including the possibility of Iranian involvement, or by an internal issue, such as a mechanical defect aboard the vessel. So far, authorities say there are no signs of hull damage consistent with a military strike, and the ship was reportedly neither listing nor taking on water at the time of the incident. Meanwhile, a senior Iranian lawmaker denied Tehran's involvement during video talks on Thursday with South Korean lawmaker Kim Seok-gi. According to Kim, Iranian Parliament Committee Chairman Ibrahim Azizi said that if Iran had attacked a Korean vessel, the government or military would have officially announced it. South Korea's foreign ministry also declined to comment directly on Iranian media reports, saying establishing the facts and determining the exact cause of the incident remained the government's top priority. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
A U.S. trade court has ruled against U.S. President Donald Trump's latest 10% global tariffs, saying the across-the-board duties were not justified under a 1970s trade law. The U.S. Court of International Trade sided with a group of small businesses that challenged the tariffs, which took effect in February, with the ruling only applying to the plaintiffs in the case. In a 2-to-1 decision, the court said the Trade Act of 1974 was not intended to address the types of trade deficits cited by Trump. The businesses argued the tariffs were an attempt to bypass a Supreme Court ruling that struck down Trump's 2025 tariffs imposed under emergency economic powers. Responding to the ruling, the Blue House said on Friday that Korea will continue to closely monitor related developments while seeking to maintain a balance of interests under its current tariff deal with the United States. North Korea this week removed all references to uniting the Korean peninsula from its constitution. The constitution had previously said the regime sought the reunification of the homeland, but that clause has now been deleted. For more on what this could mean, we're joined today by Professor Min Jung-un, professor at the Korea National Diplomatic Academy. Professor Min, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Right. So what does this latest constitutional revision signify?
Well, as you mentioned, it is known that North Korea's revised constitution has a new territorial clause and dropped all references to unification with South Korea. So it suggests that North Korea emphasizes its intention on the two hostile states policy. So the revised constitution showed that North Korea has defined its territory as the land bordering China and Russia to the north and South Korea to the south, along with its adjacent territorial waters and airspace. And in addition, all references to reunification, including terms such as peaceful reunification and the great national unity, were eliminated from the Constitution. So personally, I think that such changes in the Constitution signal Pyongyang's willingness or intention to project an image of a normal state And meanwhile, the Constitution did not identify South Korea as a primary foe, although North Korean leader Kim Jong-un previously characterized South Korea as an enemy. So it suggests that the Constitution laid the groundwork for peaceful coexistence between the two Koreas. So it is expected that there would be little change in stably maintaining security situation on the Korean Peninsula.
I see, but despite that revision, South Korea's Blue House says it will still pursue a policy of peaceful coexistence on the Korean Peninsula. And Seoul's intelligence agency also says that although the North has defined the two Koreas as separate states, hostility toward the South has been significantly reduced. What's your take on this? How should Seoul reflect the latest revision in its policy toward North Korea?
Yes, it is likely that South Korea will continue to pursue its peaceful coexistence policy on the peninsula, although North Korea's revised constitution distanced itself from South Korea. As you mentioned, South Korean government said that it would conduct a comprehensive review about North Korea's constitutional revision. And North Korea's revised constitution reflected the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's policy shift that North Korea would regard South Korea as a separate country rather than a partner for eventual unification. And it also removed the pledge to achieve Korean reunification, and it newly defined the North Korean territory without reference to South Korea. Meanwhile, the revised constitution mentioned that North Korea would never tolerate any infringement on its territory bordering South Korea, but it stopped, again, describing South Korea as an enemy. So there are no hostile remarks toward South Korea in the Constitution. So we can see that North Korea made the two states stance clear, and it has lowered its hostility toward South Korea. So it is expected that South Korea would pursue the peaceful coexistence policy on the Korean Peninsula and would make a consistent effort to reduce tensions on the peninsula and improve the relations between two Koreas.
Right, and North Korea also defended its possession of nuclear weapons at a recent meeting at the United Nations, and it said it's not bound to any treaty on non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. So how should South Korea and the international community interpret this message?
Yes, North Korea argued that it is not bound under any circumstances by NPT and insisted that any attempt to force Pyongyang to fulfill treaty obligation is a violation of international law. And as you may remember, North Korea formally withdrew from NPT in 2003. And the North Korean state media said that the North Korean ambassador to the United Nations, that he argued that North Korea's nuclear program reflects its obligation under the law on nuclear first policy and the Constitution, which defined the country's legal status as a nuclear armed state. And so he claimed that North Korea rejects acts of any specific countries, including U.S., that take issues with its access, North Korea's access to nuclear weapons and exercise of its defensive rights as a sovereign nation. And the North Korea's recently revised constitution stipulated its status and again, the nuclear armed state, and it also codified Chairman Kim Jong-un's authority to command the use of nuclear weapons for the first time. But so I think that North Korea has confirmed its status as a nuclear armed state, even through its revised constitution. It's like the institutionalization of as a nuclear state. But I also think that it should be noted that such an argument came out amid expectations that North Korea could be on the agenda at the upcoming summit between U.S. and China in Beijing next week. So I think North Korea want to reaffirm its argument that North Korea is a nuclear armed state, and it could not be negotiable when it resumes the summit diplomacy with the United States. So it seems that North Korea want to enhance its bargaining power before the upcoming summit between U.S. and China, although it's not clear if President Trump would meet Chairman Kim Jong-un when he comes to Beijing next week.
I see. And the North Korean women's soccer team is scheduled to make a rare visit to South Korea for a match. How symbolic is this, and could this possibly help improve inter-Korean relations?
Anyway, it's a very great news to hear. Yeah, and as you mentioned, it is known that North Korean women's football club, not the national team, club will play in Suwon near Seoul later this month. The Korea Football Association said that Daegoyang Women's FC will travel down to Suwon to play with the Suwon FC women in the semi-finals of the Asian Football Confederation Women's Champions League on May 20th. And this will be the first appearance that a North Korean women's football club play in South Korea. Of course, in 2005 and 2013, the North Korean women's national team came down to South Korea and played at their East Asian Football Federation Women's Championship. And as you may remember, the North Korean women's national team also played at the 2014 Incheon Asian Game, and they won the gold medal. So the North Korea's decision to send its women's football club to South Korea this time is drawing attention because there is some growing expectation that the event could serve as a momentum to ease tensions between the two Koreas. And it will be the first trip by North Koreans to South Korea after Chairman Kim emphasized the two hostile state policy. The Chairman Kim mentioned that inter-Korean relations were like two states hostile to each other in late 2023, and he also called South Korea the most hostile state recently and reaffirmed his intention to bolster their two hostile state stance. So, and the South Korean government is cautious about making too much expectation about the North Korean's visit this time and insists that sports should be kept separate from politics. But some experts, including myself, see the event as an opportunity to potentially resume a dialogue between the two Koreas because sports have historically played in bridging the two Koreas together. So we will see what will actually happen later this month.
Right, I guess we'll have to see how that match plays out. All right, Professor Min, thank you so much for your time and insight today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
On the legal front, with regard to South Korea's short-lived martial law under the former Yoon administration, the prison sentence for former Prime Minister Han Duck-soo has been shortened to 15 years by the Seoul High Court. Our Ian Jin reports.
An appeals court in South Korea on Thursday reduced the prison sentence for former Prime Minister Han Duck-soo to 15 years from 23 given by a lower court in January in relation to former President Yoon Suk-yeol's declaration of martial law on the night of December 3, 2024. The reduction by 8 years was due to the court ruling that records didn't show clear evidence of Han's active participation in the insurrection, as well as taking into consideration Han's over 50 years of public service. However, the appeals court upheld the lower court's finding that Han was guilty of engaging in key acts to help Yoon declare martial law and failed to dissuade him. During the ruling, the judge also specified that Han was aware of plans to cut off power and water supplies to some media companies during the martial law, yet again failed to prevent it. Judge Lee Seung-chul of the Seoul High Court also highlighted that Han abandoned the grave responsibilities that come from authority and position that had been entrusted to him, including intervening in the president's wrongful exercise of authority.
The judge added that afterwards, Han continued to commit crimes to cover up his guilt. Meanwhile, Han stands by his denial of wrongdoing on all charges except perjury. His lawyer said he would appeal again. 이은진, Arirang News.
Content creators from around the world are taking on a new role as digital ambassadors for Korea. The Culture Ministry has put together the 7th K-Influencer Cohort, bringing together creators from nearly 100 countries to share Korean culture with global audiences. Our correspondent Cho Young-eun reports.
Global content creators selected by the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism as K-influencers have officially begun their activities to serve as ambassadors introducing Korea through social media. The launch ceremony for the 7th K-Influencer Academy was held Thursday in Seoul, with around 100 foreign creators residing in Korea attending in person, alongside Deputy Minister Kong Hyung-sik. The 7th K-Influencer Cohort includes creators with already established global audiences, producing multilingual content featuring everyday life in Korea.
When people visit Korea, I want to show them not only Seoul, but also other cities where they can have fun. Many foreign visitors only know the famous tourist spots, but I hope to introduce more diverse regions of Korea.
One of the ceremony's highlight was a talk show introducing the K-Influencer Academy program, where creators with large subscriber bases shared insights and experiences from building global audiences. Participants also emphasized that creating meaningful content goes beyond simply entertaining viewers online, as they hope to introduce broader and more diverse sides of Korea.
It is an honor to represent global influencers and participate in this K-Influencer program. I hope this opportunity helps more foreigners create meaningful content, introducing Korea to the world.
Creators added that they hope the program will encourage more foreigners to communicate Korea's culture and values with audiences around the world.
From the beginning, I believed the most important thing was not simply making entertaining content, but creating content that conveys value and offers something people can learn from.
The Cultural Ministry said it evaluated applicants based on their content planning abilities and commitment to promoting Korean culture, ultimately selecting 1,152 from more than 4,000 applications. This year's recruitment drive attracted the highest number of applicants since the program began in 2020, representing the growing interest in Korean culture. A ministry official said K-influencers are more than just content creators, describing them as ambassadors promoting Korean culture to the world, adding that the government plans to continue expanding educational programs and support for participants. Cho Young-eun, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Chu Ji-hyun, and this is The World Now. U.S. President Trump on Thursday gave the European Union until July 4th, America's Independence Day, to fulfill its side of the trade deal struck last year. He warned that tariffs on EU goods, including cars, will jump to, quote, much higher levels if the deadline is missed. Trump said he issued the ultimatum during a, quote, great phone call with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, in which both leaders also agreed that Iran must never acquire a nuclear weapon. The trade deal reached in Scotland last July requires the EU to cut tariffs on U.S. industrial goods to zero. But legislation to implement the deal has moved slowly through the European Parliament. Trump had already threatened last Friday to raise EU car tariffs from 15% to 25% over the delays. Von der Leyen said good progress is being made toward early July compliance. Some of America's most powerful CEOs are joining President Trump on his trip to Beijing next week. The heads of Nvidia, Apple, Boeing, Exxon, Blackstone, Citigroup, Qualcomm, and Visa have all been invited. Trump's summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping has already been rescheduled once due to the Iran war, and Chinese officials have expressed unease about holding the meeting before the conflict is resolved. Boeing is watching the trip particularly closely. Its CEO said last month the company is counting on the Trump administration to unlock a long-awaited Chinese order. The summit is to take place on May 14th and 15th. Health authorities across 4 continents are racing to track down passengers who left the Hantavirus-stricken cruise ship before the outbreak was detected. More than 24 people from at least 12 countries disembarked on April 24th without any contact tracing, nearly 2 weeks after the first passenger had already died on board. A Dutch flight attendant who briefly came into contact with an infected passenger is showing symptoms and is being tested in isolation in Amsterdam, potentially becoming the first known person outside the ship to be infected. The cruise ship is now sailing towards Spain's Canary Islands with more than 140 passengers and crew still aboard. The WHO says the risk to the wider public remains low. A rare 6-carat blue diamond rated both fancy vivid blue and internally flawless is heading to auction at the Sotheby's in Geneva next week with an estimated price of up to $12 million. The auction house said on Thursday that the stone, sourced from South Africa's Cullinan mine, combines intense color, 0 internal flaws, and no fluorescence. Sotheby's calls this combination exceptionally scarce, even among blue diamonds.
The rain moved out overnight and much of the country is enjoying bright, clear skies with clean air. Today's parents stay in Korea, and despite the sunshine, temperatures will stay below seasonal norms. But the weekend looks like it's going to be warmer. By Sunday, Seoul could reach 25 degrees Celsius, feeling more like early summer. Meanwhile, except for Gangwon-do province where clouds and showers may linger through the afternoon, UV levels will be very high. If you're heading outside, hats or sun protection should come in handy. And this afternoon, most regions will see highs ranging between 20 and 22 degrees Celsius with good air quality. And as we are getting into mid-May, we should start noticing warmer mornings, and highs will also jump to the high 20s by the end of next week.
Now that's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching.
자꾸 시끄럽게 우는 10번째 알람을 끄고서 몸을 일으켜 두 다리를 끌어 거울 앞에서 모습은 답이 없어 어깨를 숙여 차물로 날 씻어 피부를 문질러 불만을 다 잊어 이제야 좀 살 것 같다 싶었는데 자꾸 누가 쳐다보네 느슨하게 비친 내 얼굴 왜 맘대로 안 될까 맘대로 못할까 맘대로 못 살까 yeah, 맘대로 만들까 맘대로 믿을까 어떤 날의 하루도 완벽한 적 없고 어떤 날의 하루도 이긴 적 없었네 깊었던 우리의 상처를 잊을 순 없지만 짧은 손금에 새겨진
Introducing Korean broadcast content that you won't be able to stop watching. For weary modern souls, Dr. Romantic, the quirky genius doctor of Puldam Hospital, prescribes heartwarming tales of humanity. A couple together for 7 years sees their rose-tinted glasses shatter. Can they keep their relationship alive? Discover the raw stories of youth, work, and love. Beyond what social media can show, experience the vibrant Korea through its hidden gems. Mama, the ultimate K-pop festival for global fans. Find your star in a feast of trendy music and electrifying performances. Now, the whole world enjoys it together.
We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Friday, May 8th here in Seoul. I'm Isujin, and this is News Generation. Joining today is Kyun.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Also Fabulous with us.
End of the week, finally.
And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So we made it to the end of the work week, but today feels a little more meaningful than usual. So here in Korea, it's Parents' Day, a time when gratitude takes center stage, and it's all about honoring the people who raised us. From carnations and heartfelt letters to family meals and phone calls, people across the country are finding their own ways to say thank you. But as lifestyles change and the younger generations redefine family roles, even traditions like this are starting to evolve. So Kyun, starting with you, what are you doing for Parents' Day?
By the way, happy Parents' Day to all the parents out there in Korea. Yeah, it's oboina in Korean. And answering your question, I've been here at Arirang since early morning, and I have to stay till late at night today because I have an evening shift. So unfortunately, I won't be able to spend today with my parents, and I have work on the weekend as well. So what we did was, me and my brother, we spent Children's Day, which was 5th of May, and we actually spent time with our parents. We had a really good family dinner, expensive one actually.
Ooh,
they were quite happy
nice.
with that. We were very happy to see them happy. And in terms of a small gift, me and my brother, we plan to give our parents a cookies actually in the shape of a carnation.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, to keep it very practical as well. So I'm sure they'll be looking forward to it. I mean, if they're watching this now, they'll be like, oh, we're getting that. But still, I mean, it's better than nothing, right? It's not a surprise. Other than that, I think we really wanted to show our gratitude to our parents and really just thank them for raising us, and also in turn wishing them for their happiness and of course their health as well. Now, I realized receiving gifts on Children's Day as a child was the good old days because, you know, growing up, becoming an adult as well, it's kind of our turn to give back to our parents by, you know, giving them gifts, or even writing cards, or obviously just taking them out to a very good dinner. So I think a lot of responsibility comes with age, but I just want to spend today telling my parents thank you so much for raising me to this person who I am right now, and yeah, and I hope they appreciate it as well. Appreciate it.
For what it's worth, I think cookies are a lot better than flowers.
That's what I thought as well.
It's actually food.
It's a little more practical, right?
It
tastes better. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What about you, Fabi? How is Parents' Day celebrated in Spain?
Well, we do have a Mother's Day and a Father's Day, but the concept of a singular Parents' Day is pretty much non-existent. Actually, last Sunday, May 3rd, it was Mother's Day in Spain, so I just had a call with my mother. But if I'm very honest, if we didn't speak consistently through the phone, I wouldn't even have known. And that is on me, but to be honest, most of my inner circle in Spain is not really super celebratory with these special dates. If anything, as a kid, I would make these small art projects in school and then give them to my parents, but nowadays it's just a call or a message. So pretty simple.
So Parents' Day is celebrated differently by people from different countries and also just different cultures. And that's why we're going to talk more about this. But first, let's take a look at the screen. A day dedicated to honoring parents also offers a moment to reflect on how that care is changing and how differently people think it should be done. In a country deeply rooted in Confucian values, caring for aging parents was once seen as a given, an expression of filial piety. But today, those expectations are shifting. Today on News Generation, we take a closer look at how attitudes towards supporting parents are evolving in Korea, how far children's responsibilities should go, and what an ideal parent-child relationship looks like today. Just as you saw in a video, a day meant to honor parents is also revealing how much expectations around care are shifting. And that shift is becoming especially visible in how the younger generations view responsibility. So is Korea's tradition of supporting parents starting to change here?
It is, definitely, but South Korea has traditionally been a Confucian society that places importance on filial piety, meaning sons and daughters caring for parents in old age. Hence, only a couple of years ago, it was only natural and morally right for children to support their parents in old age. Even in our parents' generation, there was an unspoken rule to visit parents almost every weekend, provide them with living expenses, and just care for them when they were ill instead of sending them to nursing homes. Now, going back a few more generations, although it's less common these days, daughters-in-law actually took on much of the caregiving of their husband's parents to a point where their biological parents would feel quite upset, but not able to express it openly because there was this hidden tradition of literally sending their daughters to the in-laws after getting married, and in turn having less control over their daughters. Now, if you take a look at the screen, this perception has changed recently. According to one survey, only 21% of 7,300 households asked, people said they now believe that supporting elderly parents is the responsibility of the children, which is only half of the figure from 15 years ago. So only 21% of the people actually believe that it's their responsibility to take care of our aging parents. And what's interesting is that this shift is not related to the level of income, meaning supporting one's parents is no longer seen as a matter of financial circumstances, which many may think of as the main reason. You know, am I financially capable of taking care of my parents, or vice versa? Is my parents going to be able to support me financially to actually take care of them? So that's not the reason anymore, apparently.
So that is a striking drop, and it suggests that this is less about money and more about the mindset and also the emotional aspect. So, and also looking beyond Korea, perspectives can vary just as widely depending on culture. So how does, I guess, Spain approach to caring for their parents?
Well, in Spain, taking care of parents isn't traditionally considered as a given in the culture. So this pressure of we have to take care of our parents when they become old isn't really that prominent as we see it in Korea. But I will say that in the old days, in some past generations, it was definitely more common than nowadays. See, nowadays, a lot of younger generations are more focused on their own careers and paths, so investing that time in family seems a little bit less efficient than it would be in, well, getting their own resources and their own, well, career and their own path. And I feel like a lot of older generations are more aligned with this idea. Like, I even see my parents supporting me, prioritizing my career over my care towards them. But I think the biggest difference that we see with South Korea is this generational gap. I feel like here, especially with my Korean friends, I can notice how different the hierarchy levels can be, the ways of communicating, and especially values and ideals. In Spain, we see how older generations nowadays do share similar opinions and perspectives with younger generations, so the line is a little bit more blurred. But here in Korea, there seems to be a wall between both sides, which makes communication a little bit harder.
That's quite interesting. So the contrast also is something to note. While Korea shows a generational divide, Spain seems more consistent across age groups. And that brings us to the bigger question of responsibility. So to find out what our panelists think about this, we prepared a quick OX quiz we have paddles ready about how far children should go in supporting parents. So this is quite a deeply personal decision, and there's really no one-size-fits-all answer. But let's try. So let's start with a situation that many people can probably relate to. So the first one is, what would you do if your widowed parent asked to live with you? So Kyun, do you want to go first?
It's tricky, but look, will be my immediate answer, but it will really depend on my situation. But thankfully, I have an older brother, so I can rely on him, and we can even have the burden, if we call it a burden. So we can always consult what the best scenario will be for both my end, my brother's end, and my parent, widowed parent end. Because I think if 100% sacrifice on just one end really doesn't last very long, and it ends up being becoming a big fight, which I don't want to happen among my family members, at least.
As only child, I'm very jealous of you right now. What about you, Fabio?
Well, I might be feeling a little bit homesick nowadays, but I'm very happy with the idea of living back with my parents. I think it really depends on the relationship we have with them, and I can see this not really playing out very well with other people. But in my case, I wouldn't really necessarily have a problem.
Right, I see. I think that's quite interesting. So now let's raise the stakes a little. So would you provide monthly financial support to your retired parents? And money is always where things get a little tricky. So Kyun, what about you?
Money. Yes, only because honestly, I've actually been supporting my mom financially for the past 10 years for many different reasons, and with my brother, of course, and we feel this kind of a sense of obligation, but also a sense of appreciation for how much she's gone through raising us. So I think it's the least we can do by actually, showing our kind of thankfulness and appreciation by showing a bit of financial support. And it's been too long to a point where I'm like, oh, it doesn't feel like a burden. It just feels like part of my fixed expenses. So I'm cool with it now. But Dad, if you're listening right now, if you're watching, I'll do the same for you if you were in the same situation. So don't feel upset, okay?
That's a great answer. What about you, Fabio?
Well, I guess it would just become very unexpected. And because of that, I'm saying no, just because I wouldn't expect that from my parents. So it would seem like a problem of management. So in my case, since I don't expect it in my situation, I wouldn't want to become that burden to my future kids. I think it's all about organizing your lifestyle so that when you're having kids, it doesn't become a problem. But if the situation does happen, I can see that, help coming out.
Oh, so your parents don't support you, and so you guys don't, support each other financially anymore?
Not really. I feel like financially we are both independent entities right now. But I mean, if the time comes where it isn't like that anymore, then of course I would be prepared. But I would like to be prepared beforehand.
Right.
If it just comes out of nowhere, then I will be a little bit against it.
That's pretty clean. So a clear split here, and then we can see the difference between what people think about responsibility and also personal independence. And things get even more complex when obviously health is involved. So would you consider sending your parent with dementia to a nursing home? And in Korea, there's a stigma around nursing homes. So
definitely. So as a Korean, I would say no, even if I weren't a Korean. It wouldn't be an easy decision to send my parents to a hospital or even a nursing home. I mean, I would first do my best as a good son to do what I can to a point where if I feel burnt out and I can't even take care of myself, then I guess it's time for me to kind of send my parents to a nursing home where they can receive professional help. But for now, sending them to a hospital is not something I really want to think about, and that would actually be my last resort. So doing what I can first as a son would be my first kind of action towards my sick parents.
And I think a lot of people feel that way these days too, especially people who are married. You have to think of how their partner feels about the situation as well.
It's complicated.
It is very complicated. Fabi, what are your thoughts on this?
That perspective makes a lot of sense. I think in my case, my family already has experience with Alzheimer and other types of dementia.
I see.
And a lot of attention and care is needed. So realistically, it's very hard to put that much time, invest that much time in taking care of that person, especially when medical help or professional help might even be a little bit more effective. So in most of the situations, taking care of that person might become your main role. And if that's the case, you might have to give up a lot of things in your personal life.
Right.
So in our case, it didn't really work out and we ended up getting professional help. So that's why I said yes.
Sometimes, a health professional is a health professional for a reason.
Yes.
So, and that's a real emotional weight to that decision between doing yourself and also trusting professionals. And recently, there's even been a new approach entering the conversation about the role of contracts. So there was one case where a grandfather gave property to his grandsons on the condition they, quote, run errands, but when they cut off contact, the court actually rejected his claim to get it back because the obligation of running errands was too vague to enforce. In contrast, another parent was able to successfully reclaim land given to a son and daughter-in-law after their divorce because the contract clearly stipulated no divorce as a condition, making that legally valid. So going off of this, are filial contracts between parents and children acceptable in your opinion, Kyun?
Controversial.
Yeah.
This is really
But in East Asian countries, it seems more acceptable compared to Western countries. But signing a contract that legally binds parents and children sounds too much like a business context. And I guess personally, I don't like that in family settings. I rather want just pure love, unconditional love, instead of signing contracts saying, there's A, B, C's up to Z, on conditions you have to meet. And I don't want to see my parents and myself in the court fighting for whatever, assets. No, that's just not my thing.
Yeah, family is about the emotional aspects.
Right.
Well, having it in paper sounds a bit odd. What about you, family?
I don't want to see that for myself too, but I can see this play out really well in other cases, especially with close friends that don't have very good relationships with their parents or their families. I can see how a contract can become a band-aid for a big wound. So it might not cure the whole wound, but it might stop the bleeding. So it might be helpful to some extent.
Right. Okay. So we talked about our personal thoughts on this, and also to get now a more in-depth and personal perspective, we're actually going to speak with a father of 2 adult children right here in Korea. And that conversation is coming up right after break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
And joining us today is Hong Ji-sung, a father of 2 daughters here in Korea, and one of his daughters is actually a writer on our show as well. So Mr. Song, thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Thank you for having me here today.
We're really honored to have you. So Mr. Song, how is elder care perceived, you think, by your generation, and how do you take care of your parents?
Okay, myself and my friends are in their entrance to retirement. So we try to prepare ourselves in terms of financially well to take care of my parents and family. But as we all know, the financial status does not follow as you wish or as much as we want. So with a limited budget and with a limited time, we should take care of our parents. So we call ourselves as a first and last generation with a triple burden, carrying ourselves and carrying our aging parents who lives longer than our parents, older parents. And now our adult children are preparing their skills and knowledges more longer than previous generation. So for us, it took us many times and much effort. But in the sense, personally, me, thanks to my father, who is so active and who got a teacher's pension, and who is there to learning new tools like PC, internet, Kakao, even AI recently. I taught him. So he's using AI in his writing and novels and poems. He's very glad. So I'm trying to connect with my parents' physical health sense, as well as kind of a mixing of lifestyle sporter. So personally, I think myself as a seasonal sport for my parents. In the spring, when the cherry blossom out, I visit my parents' house and escort them to the restaurant over teas or nice cafe. That's kind of a way for them to enjoy outside the atmosphere with the young generations. And in the summer, I try to have vacation together with my parents, minimum 1-2 days out together to nice places. And winter time, year end, we are having kimjang. We call the making kimchi together. It's kind of a family event. I try to put a strong emphasis on that. Let them have a chance to share their knowledge and skills to the family members. And we could also prepare our winter food by the help of our parents. So I'm seasonal spotter with a weekly call to my parents and my mom. In 2 or 3 days, I call. And that's for my way of sporting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Song. We are running out of time, so this will be my last question for you. How do you expect your children to support you?
Okay, actually, I'm not a very good son from my parents' perspective. I try to be like that. In Korea, saying the children's our gift and our guest in our life. So we do our best to care them, and while they are seeing what you are doing, they could learn, and they could also have a better environment, like systematic caring facilities and services. I wanna enjoy with them the life-size spotter. That's kind of my expectation to my children's, and I wanna. First, most of all, I want to be financially independent from them. That's kind of my personal goal nowadays. Thank you for asking.
I think that was a great answer. I think my own parents can probably relate to you a lot, being kind of like a sandwich generation. Also, yeah, you sound like a great dad as well. So thank you for sharing your insights with us today, Mr. Song.
Thank you for the questions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we just heard from a dad here in Korea on how his generation views elder care, what he expects from his parents as well. So this really gives us a lot to think about when it comes to our own roles and responsibilities. So to close off our discussion today, Kane, how do you want to support your parents?
That's a very good question. But just to wrap up, I think as kids, we came into this world because of our parents. It wasn't, to be honest, it wasn't our choice. It was our parents' choice through love. So that's why they go through so much effort raising us. So as kids, we have to kind of appreciate how much effort and work they put in, even time as well, and show the utmost expressions by either verbally, emotionally, hugs and kisses, or even money, whatever it is. But like Fabio said, it's different depending on each family dynamics. So you should be aware of like how you grew up, your surroundings, your environment, and really communicate with your parents what they really expect from you, and vice versa as well. And then just create a harmonized kind of relationship where you don't burden each other, pressure each other, but just fully understand each other through, I guess, good communication.
Right. What are your thoughts on this, Bandar?
Well, pretty much to sum it up, my parents have taken very good care of me, so I'm ready to give back and show that appreciation. I think that is very important too. I think we also have to address the elephant in the room right now, which is the fact that one of the problems that we are focusing on right now is the fact that older generations lack attention from younger generations. And that struggle is valid, but we also need to analyze the situation. And most of the time this comes from a problem where older generations don't really understand or value the differences in the new generations, especially when it comes to mentality and moral values. And so when they don't feel accepted, that love sometimes feels a little bit superficial because it's family love, but it doesn't really make you fully comfortable. Without full comfort, that responsibility doesn't go really both ways efficiently.
Right. So as Korea's views on family continue to evolve, conversations like this are becoming more important than ever. There may not be one right answer when it comes to supporting parents. Even so, many still seem to agree on one thing: emotional connection really does matter. And maybe that's what defines family in the end, not pressure, but presence. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. But News Gen will be back on Monday at 10:30 Korea time with more stories and discussions. A big thanks to Q.
Thanks for having me.
For coming in. Also Fabio.
Happy Parents' Day.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully your Parents' Day plans involve quality time, not a contract. We are
News Generation.